Welcome to the Pharos Fit Podcast, where we help you to explore your capacity to move better, push further, and achieve your limitless potential through fitness, nutrition, recovery, and lifestyle. Hey guys, welcome back to the Pharos Fit Podcast. We have a different and really interesting podcast today, so I'm super excited to introduce it to you guys. Before we do that, just to let you guys know, the base at Pharos is now complete. We have a new 6,500 would be impressive. 6,500 square foot open gym, stacked full of great equipment. If you haven't seen it already, please come and check it out. It's at 1316 Glendale Boulevard. It's a great facility. We're super proud of it, and I know you guys are going to love it. So come check it out. Okay, so the purpose of today's seminar, today's podcast, is we have an upcoming seminar called Intro to Pregnancy and Postpartum Fitness. It's on Saturday, March 7th from 12:30 to 3:30. And one of the things we're really proud of in the gym is that we have a lot of young families. We have a lot of young mothers, a lot of young fathers. And one of the questions we always get is, when I'm pregnant, how should I train? How should I eat? What should I be doing? What shouldn't I be doing? And then also postpartum, like after the baby's born, like how do I return to fitness? How do I get my strength back? How do I get my fitness back safely? There's a lot of uncertainty, and we really want to put something like this on to help our members and to help the broader fitness community at large. So luckily today I'm here with two experts in this field, Emylee Covell. And
we should have done the clap in the mic. Okay, wait, let's do it. Clap. Wait.
There you go. That was a strong
really
clap.
Good. I felt
a strong motherly clap. Emylee Covell and Madeline, Mosier, Timm,
hello,
who are going to be hosting this seminar on March 7th. Obviously, both of them are mothers. They've both been through this experience and are kind of still going through this experience.
Maddie twice.
And Maddie twice. So Maddie, I mean, people kind of know Emylee a little bit from the podcast. They don't so much know you. So let's hear a bit about yourself. Like, how did this happen?
How did this happen? So I was coaching CrossFit, started back in 2011. And all of a sudden in 2014, found out I was pregnant with my first kiddo. Big shock, big surprise, and not afraid to say that, he was a beautiful surprise in our life.
Ours too.
Really? I didn't know he was a surprise too. And, being an athlete and being someone who was is so used to having fitness be such a big part of my life, it was a huge transition moving as an athlete to a pregnant athlete and then a postpartum athlete, and not really quite understanding how to navigate that, not really having anyone on my quote unquote team or in my tribe to help me navigate through that in a way that is safe. And also there's the mental and emotional aspect to having such a huge change in your life.
Yes.
And so being someone who has kind of gone through all of that now twice, I realized that I needed to be that coach, not only for myself, but then wanted to go and be that coach for other women as well.
Absolutely.
And so kind of in a nutshell, that's how my whole coaching experience has shifted from pure CrossFit coach to now a pregnancy and postpartum athleticism coach.
And at that time, the information out there was kind of like very conflicting, right? Some people were saying you shouldn't lift weights at all. Some people were saying you can do absolutely anything. Like, how did you navigate that minefield?
Absolutely. That is a great question. But, at the time in my first pregnancy, and this was only 4 years ago.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of information out there. There was, like you said, a lot of conflicting information out there. There was, you should only lift 5 pounds during pregnancy, or keep doing what you've always.
Your baby's going to come out more than 8. Like, what? Even though you might have a 9-pound baby, don't lift over 5.
Yeah, like what? That makes absolutely no sense. Or keep doing what you've always done and just listen to your body. But really, we don't even know what listen to your body means. So funny, just quick little story on that. I remember seeing my first OB when I was first pregnant with Jackson. So like nobody knew except for like me and Joe and this OB very early on in my pregnancy. And I asked her, I was like, hey, you know, I'm a CrossFit athlete. I compete. I want to, you know, figure out how to maintain my fitness during my pregnancy. And she was like, well, you can do gliding movements.
What?
Yeah. I was like, what do you mean?
Wait,
glide?
What does that mean?
I don't know. I don't like, what do you want me to do?
Peter, master of strength.
You've lost me.
What does that mean?
When you said it, I was like, is it like this? Like
it's like
ice
I imagine.
skating?
Yes, that's imagine
yeah,
exactly what
exactly.
the magnetic ones that's like slightly above
Yeah.
the surface, and it's like
I was like, you want me to glide?
okay.
Alrighty.
Or hang
So-
gliding?
Yeah, yeah. So no context at all, right? So needless to say, I didn't go back to that OB, and yeah. So anyway, we're kind of given these two extremes when we are confronted with how should we work out during pregnancy, and what we're going to talk about in the workshop is let's find the middle. Let's find a place where we're serving our athletes for exactly where they currently are in their journey and what do they need? What are they experiencing? Are they experiencing pelvic health symptoms?
Do they even know what that like phrase means?
Exactly.
And do they brush it off as, you know, just, you know, not peeing when you do double unders, or, you know, do they like kind of really get a grasp of what that is?
That's exactly that. Exactly that. And finding that common ground where we can talk about these things. We're not afraid to talk about symptoms. We're not afraid to talk about incontinence, as an example of a symptom.
Yeah.
And we're serving our athletes for exactly where they currently are.
Right. Which is like kind of the biggest key in all of this. If you were to just like, you know, ding, 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 you know, like that's it. Like if you're not being met where you are and you're just kind of, you know, going with the flow, or thinking that you mentioned an interesting word, maintain my fitness. And I think maintain or maintenance, it's like, okay, so everything in your body is shifting for the next 9 months. You're never going to be exactly like, your body is going to go under some like real transformation, and you're expecting to quote unquote maintain. Like, why not adapt? Why not transform with you? Why not, you know, like figure out, like assess and address where you are across the whole journey and use it as like a way to get to know yourself better. And of course, you know.
Well, here's the other thing, like, and this is what I've witnessed. There's a lot of like pregnant women on social media who are like, you know, working out really hard right until their up until the birth, and I think a lot of women look at that and almost like feel a pressure to try and keep up with that. But obviously, pregnancy is different for everybody. Like, some people are experiencing a lot of like sickness and they don't feel great, and you know, it's a real struggle.
Yeah.
Whereas other women can like train right through, and that's okay. Like, both versions are okay because everyone has a different experience.
Yeah.
And
And of course, with like the pendulum swing, then there's also the like kind of like hate on the end of the spectrums,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
where it's like we're all working towards the same thing. There just might be like some weird messaging, some better considerations, some more things to think about, stronger community, you know, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
I mean, there is no right. There's only what's right for you, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And as athletes, you know, part of being an athlete is being able to be adaptable. So why not be adaptable?
Right.
during
Like, when do you
this-
maintain anything?
Yeah, it's not
as an
about
athlete?
maintaining. And that's what I thought it was. That's because I had a fear of losing everything that I had spent years
Right.
obtaining.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Because I don't know, 2013, right? 2014, SoCal Regionals.
I had just,
team.
we had just come off of regionals. The other team had just gone to the games.
Yeah.
Joe's team, my husband's team, had just gone to the games the month
Like,
later.
competing was in your blood
It was
at this time.
And I was like, I'm going to the games next year.
Yeah. It's happening.
It's happening.
Yeah.
Like, this is where I am. And all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. And my son was actually born the week of regionals.
Right. So
So
have fun
that's-
with
yeah.
that. Like, imagine. I'm going to the
every-
games
yeah,
next year.
Everyone's in Del Mar, and we're having a baby.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, being adaptable was not something that I had considered at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. when you think of like, you know, oh, constantly varied fitness and like, you know, constantly varied like programs or arcs or things. And it's so funny, especially now because my baby's 4 months old. It's so funny. I know it's crazy how I feel like every mom so clichély says that time flies by. But like when you're pregnant, you think you're going to be pregnant forever. And you're like, God, this is really going to screw me up. And God, this, you know, and then like afterwards, you're like, wow, that pregnancy was very temporary, you know, compared to like this little nugget that I'm going to have forever, you know?
Yeah, totally. And that idea of it being temporary, this is just a temporary part of our fitness journey. So
right, this is a 9-month training block.
Yeah,
like this is a different 9-month training block.
Right. Yeah, so I was going to say, I mean, how did that block look like for people listening? Like, how was your journey from the beginning to the point of birth? Was your frequency more in the beginning and less at the end, or did you kind of feel better throughout pregnancy? And was the experience different from the first baby to the second?
Yeah,
baby?
I'm gonna hijack and be like, talk about that. Like,
Yeah.
really, that's a story that I really resonated with. The difference between your two bibs.
Yeah. So that first journey through was all about quote unquote maintaining, not wanting to lose this part of my identity.
Sure.
Because I associated so much of myself with being an athlete.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there was definitely, I also didn't know. Obviously I knew there was a baby in there and things were changing, but physiologically, like, what were the implications of performing certain movements during my pregnancy? I didn't understand all of that.
Right.
So I was more on the extreme side of things of, I'm going to work out. I'm going to work out hard. I'm going to quote unquote maintain. And then I had my son, and this is where everything changed, was that during birth, I had a very significant perineal tear into the pelvic floor muscles. And I was just like, okay, the doctor's going to stitch me up and I'm going to go on my way and things are going to, done. Yay. And very soon after that, I realized, wait a minute, things aren't right. But then I also just attributed that to the fact that, oh, well, this is how it is for all women.
Right.
This is just kind of what we do. And
when you say things aren't right, like what are some things that you want people to look out for that are not right?
That's a great question. For me, it was very clearly just experiencing leaking during certain movements, particularly things like high impact movements, double unders, lifting weight, receiving the weight back on my body, having those moments. And I was like, I can't talk to anybody about this because I'm supposed to just accept that this is my life now.
Right. Like people make jokes about it.
Yeah.
And like, you know, anytime there's a workout, when a thing, people like joke about like, oh, well, that's just the life. Yeah. It's like, you know.
Yeah, that's really what it became. And so I just kind of swallowed it and accepted it and didn't really know what to do about it except move on. So I kept training, and I kept training hard because I wanted to be on that team that was going to regionals.
Did you look into any like corrective exercise, like PT, or even consider pelvic floor physical therapy at that time? Was that even a word?
That was not even on the radar.
Right. So you were like, I'm going to train hard.
Yeah, that was not in Google searches.
Right.
Pelvic floor physical therapy
wasn't a hashtag.
Not a thing. Yeah. It definitely was not a thing. And so it was after not making the team that year that I took a step back and I was like, all right, I cannot accept that this is my life now. I cannot accept that I have to lift and pee all the time. That just that's not fair. So as I entered my second pregnancy, that's when I stumbled upon the idea of pelvic floor physical therapy. And I was like, whoa, this sounds like this is exactly what I need. Like,
do you remember it like a day? Like, was it a moment? Was it like, what are these words?
Yeah. I don't remember what day it was exactly, but I do remember being really excited for my first appointment.
Sure.
Because I was like, this is the beginning of change.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to get help. And even if my symptoms aren't completely alleviated, at least I can figure out what's going on and I have answers.
Yeah.
Because that's really, really empowering to just know, like, what is happening to my body. So
I love that. The whole tone of the whole story just changed when, like, you feel like you have like help and support and hope and like, you know, like maybe things aren't like, you didn't say there's a quote unquote cure that you're gonna, I'm gonna get better, but like you were stoked.
Yeah.
That, like there was some sort of answer.
So excited. And with pelvic floor physical therapy, able to implement breathing strategies and learn what was happening with my body, create core and pelvic floor support, especially now as I was going into my second pregnancy and, you know, really hoping that things weren't going to get worse. But having these strategies in place and then apply those strategies to my fitness felt really, really good.
Absolutely. You know when something free flows like really well, and then you're like, great, so where are we? Yeah. No, Sloan specifically, just to give people the full kind of spectrum of like where you come from, as not just a coach to help people who are like, you know, high performing athletes, but even just like everyday people who want to control these different symptoms and have help and hope. How did that empower your second birth story? Like, I know your first birth story with Jackson was so different that I remember being pregnant, asking you like what had gone down with Sloan, and hearing that, like talking to you on the phone about like what was going on there. So talk about how that kind of journey informed you to have a much different birth experience the second time.
Yeah, I'm first of all just being more in tune with my body and being more knowledgeable about how it was changing physiologically. Understanding how this core system works and how it should work as a unit, and then able to take all of that knowledge into my birth. I very strongly believe that the lack of awareness of my pelvic floor is what led to the significant tear that I had during birth. And that during Jackson's birth, my first birth, I had a walking epidural, which is basically a lower dose version of a full epidural.
Right.
But I couldn't feel what I was doing. I could tell I was pushing, but I couldn't tell what anything else felt like.
Yeah, quote unquote walking epidural.
Yeah. I had no idea of anything else. So not being able to access that, was very kind of confusing in that moment.
Sure, played a huge role. It's like, okay, now use it. You can't feel it, but use it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then going into my second birth with Sloan, just feeling better about my body and what was going on, and feeling more knowledgeable and in tune with things, as well as having a breath strategy that had supported me throughout this pregnancy. I took that into my birth too. So during birth with Sloan, I was able to let go of my pelvic floor as opposed to holding it tight and tensing. And so, you know, as opposed to like pushing against a tense
brick wall.
Exactly. Yeah. I was able to let it go, and my recovery with Sloan was night and day. I had her in a tub.
We're talking like candles, nice music, essential oils,
like
massages in places. Like this is the complete opposite
all of that stuff.
Of the hospital walking epidural route into
fluorescent
recovery.
light.
I mean, real what a very like fun, powerful shift. You know,
I felt. I mean, granted that I know that things. And being able to be adaptable in birth is very important too. And saying like, hey, I'm going to be in control of this as much as I can be. And I was able to have the birth experience that I was hoping for. But I was still open to, hey, if something needed to change, all right, let's do that. Fine.
Right.
But
here's my quote unquote plan. I understand that like is gonna get shredded, and it's just
always
gonna go how it goes.
Yeah.
But the more flexible I can kind of be, the more I can kind of bend and adapt in those circumstances. Yeah.
So
so going back just to you know, when you were pregnant with both children, did you do different movements in the second one, or did you do the same movements with better awareness? Was it just the awareness and the breath control that helped you do those movements, or did you change your routine completely?
A little bit of both.
Right.
So the first time around, no breathing strategy. I mean, talking like 20, like bearing down,
Valsalva to the
pushing
extreme,
out, as well as, performing movements that like I look back and I cringe a little bit because I mean,
you hope you don't have an Instagram post of you.
Oh, I totally do.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh, I totally
you were
do.
really proud. Hashtag
at the time,
athlete. Yeah.
And people were like, oh, you know, applauding that. That's cool. That's great. But you know, like I'm talking like doing the CrossFit Open in 2015, like 27 weeks pregnant or whatever it was, and like handstand push-ups.
Right.
You know, and I'm just like, I can't believe I did that. And did that exacerbate some of the symptoms I had, like diastasis recti? Did it make symptoms worse postpartum? I don't know.
Yeah, you only have what you're experienced to work with.
I don't know if that is the case, but it could have. Right. So why make that? What am I trying to say?
Why take that risk?
Why take that risk?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Why take that risk?
Right. And that's an interesting thing to approach, like risk versus reward when it comes to exercises. And, you know, I know, okay, I'm going to kind of go through, we talked a little bit about like, you know, the messaging and the myths and all of that kind of stuff, and not to go into all of them, but what would you say is the one that right now at least annoys you the most? Messaging around pregnancy and postpartum.
Probably the safe and unsafe movements.
Boom. So I knew that was going to be
you
it,
knew
because
that one?
Pete said like everyone just wants to know the only like the basic question that people want to know is what is safe and what is unsafe. And it's like, well, the answer is that depends, which is not the answer you're looking for, but it is the answer you should be looking for. So try not to buy the one-stop shop when you see that safe. When you see the word safe and unsafe, just like look twice.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because what we do as pregnancy and postpartum athleticism coaches is it's beyond the what to do. It's the how to do it.
Right. Because some things may be safe for a long time and other people look at and it's like, I can't believe you're doing that. But it is totally fine and safe and acceptable for that person because they're aware. Like a good example right now with me postpartum is there are definitely things that I can't do or things that I can't do in high volumes. Like box jumps are a single jump endeavor. Like I remember I used to bing, 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 you know, and now it is like I exhale before my feet even leave the ground and I am landing, right? So there's this like strategy that allows me to do that. I'm not doing any sort of kipping thing. So one might say I have a weak core, yet I feel very strong and confident deadlifting and deadlifting heavy postpartum. So it's like there are certain things that are going to be right for some people and not right for others. And even quote unquote core exercises, like it is not one size fits all in that in that way either. So
well, and also in a basic sense, it's like if I'm trying to work my shoulder strength, then why do a handstand push-up when I could just do a strict press? Like basic
risk
stuff like that.
Reward.
Like what is the purpose of this exercise, and is there a better way to do it when I'm in this condition?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, how would you suggest someone finds out that they're pregnant, which is like, so if this happens, we've had Pharos Open like now for over 2 years, and the amount of people who have come through being like, I'm pregnant, I just had a baby, blah, blah, blah. Like, or I'm like, you know, excited. I'm here. I'm working with one person right now who has back pain. She wants to be a mom and wants to figure it out before she even gets pregnant. And I'm like, I love this. You know, there's just so many like pregnant athletes who come in and the first thing that they think is, what do I do? What do I need to look out for? I just found out I'm pregnant. Madeline Mosier, what is safe? Madeline Mosier, Timm, what is safe?
What is safe?
Or where do I start?
Where do I start?
What do I look for? How do I navigate these kind of early stages?
That is a very big question. And that is something that we are going to dive heavily into in the workshop this next Saturday.
Right, like this is exactly what it's about.
This is what it's about because there are a lot of questions, and I understand having those questions because I had those exact questions too. I remember when I first found out I was pregnant, I was like, I'm not going to do anything.
Right.
Like that first few weeks, I was like, I'm pregnant. I can't do anything. And then once I got past that, you know, that initial fear, I was like back in it, you know, the first pregnancy.
Right.
My first pregnancy, I did that. But let's first off, we have to adjust our mindset when it comes to pregnancy and postpartum fitness. And that's not just for the athlete, but that goes for coaches, that goes for everybody around us that's supporting us. Allow us that space to adjust ourselves. Another little moment I'll never forget. I had one of my fellow coaches come up to me when I was in my first pregnancy, and he was like, "Oh, so you're gonna, be back to
bounce back?"
Yeah,
that's my annoying one. Like if you ask me that question, that would be the one for me. That's just like,
yeah, that one.
You can't see what just happened. Is the worst. You saw it.
Yeah, he was like, "You're gonna be back in what, 6 weeks?"
Yeah,
and he had like stamped this arbitrary
thanks
number.
For the pressure.
Yeah, this arbitrary number on my recovery, but it got in my head. And I know he didn't mean anything harmful by it.
Sure.
But by saying that, I had put this like unnecessary pressure on myself to quote unquote bounce back.
Right. And they're so supportive. Like, and that's the thing, like everyone is so supportive, and they're like, just, do what feels right. Listen to your body. Like, don't worry, you'll bounce back. And like, oh, you look great. You don't even look like you had a baby. It's like, well, I did.
I hate that one.
Well, I
hate that one too.
It's not like it's my goal to not look like I just had a baby, because I did just have a baby.
And like, why do we tell women that? Like, where does that come from? Like, it's
like, good job on not looking pregnant anymore.
Yeah.
That's really good job.
I think, you know what? That's probably my...
The more annoying one. I dug a little deeper.
Yeah. That one just kind of...
Okay, so then I guess this is a broader question, because we're not so much talking about the pregnant athlete that comes in and who comes in and says, "Oh, I'm pregnant. Now where do I start?" It's like, how can you change the mindset around coaching in general, where, because they're not just going to come and seek you out. They're going to come and seek out whoever they're currently training with, who may or may not, So maybe I would say when, let's maybe speak to like male coaches. Like, what should male coaches consider when having a pregnant or postpartum athlete? Your answer is going to be the same.
Literally, my answer is exactly the same, is mindset. When we are educated on exactly what is happening to our bodies, and what's happening to women's bodies in pregnancy, you know what? I recommend men going and becoming certified pregnancy and postpartum athleticism coaches.
Like, how many people train women? Like, how many women prefer male trainers and then go through their, pregnancy and postpartum journey? It's just as much on you to know.
It's not like we're a small demographic.
Right.
We've just been underserved in that sense. And I think women deserve to have more options in their coaches. Like, this is something that male coaches...
Or accessories to their coaches.
Yeah,
like if a male coach is like, okay, great, just don't pretend to know. If you do know, get them in contact with somebody who does know.
Yeah, like, don't go outside of your scope. And there are so many pregnancy and postpartum athleticism coaches that are joining the ranks of Emylee and myself every day. And we are more than happy to jump on a phone call and say, hey, like, let's talk about how we can better serve this athlete and what are her needs.
Right.
Like,
and also, it's more relevant now than it ever has been, because there are so many more women training
in pregnancy.
Yeah, like in pregnancy, but training in ways that they didn't train 20 years ago.
Right. Or like, even 10 years ago. Like, I was listening to this great podcast that was talking about how, like, someone asked, like, what the research says. They were interviewing a pelvic floor physical therapist, and she was like, honestly, we are the research right now. Like, when it comes to training on this scale, like, we are the research. It's happening right now. And that, so going into it with that mindset, that's like, everything is exploratory, nothing is cookie cutter, everything needs to be an individualized approach, and finding ways. So for you it's mindset, and for me it's assessment. Like, mindset then informs your ability to be connected with your body, to be connected to what really matters, what you are quote unquote training for.
I think those things coming together just kind of creates the environment that women need in their training, and just feeling comfortable with making those adjustments, because it is hard when everyone else around you is, they're doing certain movements a certain way, or they're lifting a certain amount of weight, and I'm working on my breath strategy and using much less weight than I'm used to. It's a hard adjustment.
Sure.
But letting our athletes know, like, that's okay.
Right.
Giving them that support, because they understand the physiological implications.
Yeah. And like, being in it for the long haul. Like, just because, like, if you are a marathon runner, the goal should be to get back to running forever. Like, to be able to be 80 and running, not just like, how quickly can I get back,
Long-term athleticism.
So now with that being said, postpartum.
Okay.
Pregnancy is temporary. Mm-hmm. But postpartum is forever.
It's forever.
It's
right.
forever. I just met with somebody yesterday who had a back spasm, reached out to me and was like, Emylee, I just went to my OBGYN. I had a pap smear and now I have a back spasm. And I was like,
Whoa.
I mean, if this doesn't relate to pelvic floor health. And then, you know, she comes in and we chat and, you know, she's talking about, you know, her 2 babies and how she totally is the person who, you know, can't jump on a trampoline and things like that. And it's like, you know, she had kids 15 years ago and was never had any of this talked about and is sitting there and then texted me this morning and was like, Emylee, thank you so much. I called my OBGYN and I just made an appointment with a pelvic floor physical therapist. And it's like, yay!
Yeah.
You know, like this is why we're here, you know, that it's not just like the tiny little points of pregnancy or how to navigate how quickly you can get your body back, but like navigate, like, you know, training changes and carrying that awareness all throughout your life as a female and all the, you know, phases of that, so important.
Yeah, and motherhood is physical. We are picking things up.
I am
pulling,
lunging and squatting and deadlifting all day long.
Yeah. And you want to be able to jump on a trampoline with your kids. You don't want to have to sit on the sidelines. And just knowing that no matter where you are in your postpartum journey, if it's been months, if it's been years, that there is help and there is hope. And that's another resounding point of next week's seminar.
Yeah. Okay, I have some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Are you excited?
Just
like some for fun so people can get to know you. Actually, before we do that, I just want like people to really know, and in case like you didn't know, it's really fun to have you here because whether you know this or not, in addition to being my former boss and manager, for people who don't know, Maddie used to be my boss.
That's
and
right.
I don't think I was a very good employee. I at least know I didn't always wear the uniform.
Stop.
But
You were a great employee. I was so proud of you.
But
I'm so proud of you.
Even more than that, you really were the first mentor that I had on how to apply coaching, like fantastic coaching in a group setting. So thank you for that. In case you didn't know.
Thank you.
I'm like, you know, it's just so funny because Pharos is like, we are built on the group dynamic that like results are accelerated in a group environment supported by people who are like in your corner and like, you know, looking out for you. And it's so fun how like that is always, you know, taken from like who's come before you. And so like you played such a huge role in that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so honored to have been a part of it.
I know. And now you're here and then you get to meet the Pharos mamas and I just feel like it's all
full
happening.
circle.
Full circle.
It really
I just tied
is.
it in a little bow.
Oh,
okay, so as a mom.
Okay, let's go.
What is your best way to de-stress? How do you de-stress?
Wine and Real Housewives.
Oh, yes.
I just admitted that.
No, I love how fast it flew out of your mouth. You said it before you could think about it.
And of course, The Good Doctor, because my brother.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
so,
you could totally plug that.
yeah.
Watch The Good Doctor,
Watch The Good Doctor, guys.
All right. What is your like strategy for juggling all the things? You are mom, you are work mom, you are boss lady, you are a best friend, you are a wife. Like what's the way that you juggle all the things?
God, I still don't know if I figured that out
Sure.
entirely.
What is your current strategy experimenting of juggling all the things?
You know what? When you're in mom mode, you're in it. Just be as present as you can in each of those moments. Put your phone down. When you're with your husband, because those times are fewer and far between for my own husband and I than ever now. So when we are together, like just
Be together.
Be together. Be there. Be in it. When I'm programming for a client, that's what I'm doing. I do that at the end of the day when my kids are asleep. So I kind of compartmentalize each aspect of my life in that way just because that's what works for me.
Sure.
But yeah, I think kind of compartmentalizing those moments in my life has definitely helped.
What was your favorite part of being pregnant?
Favorite part of being pregnant? You know what? To be honest, I didn't enjoy pregnancy with Jackson. Only because
okay,
it
it's
was
not his fault.
Yeah, it's not his fault. I know that sounds like an awful thing to say, but it was such a transition in my life that it took me so long to wrap my head around it.
Right.
That my life was changing so drastically. My body was changing so drastically. And then just the second pregnancy was so different because I had so much more knowledge. And so I was able to just enjoy this life that was happening.
All up in ya.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not like being pregnant either, but my favorite part about being pregnant was being able in photos, like normally as a female, you suck your stomach in, but you're just like...
You get to let it go.
Let it go. In fact, push it out a little bit.
Let the people see the belly.
Yes.
Let them see it.
And what would you say right now you are most proud of in your life?
Just having a home that is filled with lots of like love and fun and laughter and
fur babies
and dancing. I mean, especially Joe's dance moves, they're great. You know, he doesn't show them off very often,
but you get to see them, and that's all that matters.
And you know, Joe took a picture of himself with the kids the other day. I was out doing something, I don't remember what, and he sent it to me, and it was like him wearing like this dinosaur like blanket costume thing over his head, and they were all roaring at the picture, and it was just so stinking cute. And I was like, I pray to God every night saying how thankful I am and how grateful I am for like this life and those kids and this man, and I'm just proud of what we've built. I guess. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming here, but also teaming up with Pharos and bringing your gift and your knowledge and your influence to the pregnancy and postpartum community at Pharos Athletic Club. So if you are interested, if you are a coach who wants to learn more, if you are someone about to get pregnant, currently pregnant, postpartum, being forever, then come and register. You can do that, of course, on the Pharos Athletic Club app. You can also go to pharos.fit/mamas, and that will also direct you to Maddie's site so that you can kind of navigate around there and get to know her a little bit more. But we're so excited. And any last parting words?
I'm super interested. This is great. I'm really excited about this.
Thank you for letting me hijack the Pharos Fit Podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate our chat and
it's
getting into all
as just as you were saying, like in terms of like the research, like this is happening now.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like I feel like you guys are happening now. This is happening now. This is important.
It's a movement.
It's a movement. It's important information.
And luckily, we aren't the only ones. It's a really strong movement. So if you look for the information, it is there. You just have to, don't just go to the first thing that you see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks again for listening. Again, you can check us out at Pharos Echo Park on Instagram. We are at 1316 Glendale Boulevard. If you want to drop in, say hi, come check out the gym. And we will see you very soon. Thanks again, guys. Take care. Bye.